Hello everyone. So, in the last video we have discussed how Python is communicating with MySQL database and what is the library we needed to establish a connection and what are the things which we needed to communicate or fetch the data or do CRUD operation. Okay, so in this chapter we are going to do a similar thing, but the database is different. Okay, so we are going to use Oracle database. Okay, let me create another script, uh, working or simply connect Oracle db.py. Okay, so in our last chapter we discussed how to create a connection and how to use the connection to make a database calls, and finally we discussed about organize your code. So we have an idea how to organize a code. So we are going to apply in this particular chapter. Okay, I'm going to create a function to return the connection. Okay, before that, what are the things which we needed? Okay, first thing, Oracle database, and second, Python libraries, and so what else? DB details. Okay, so in this video I'm not going to show you how to install Oracle database into your machine. Okay, that will take some time. So if you really need how to set up an Oracle database, please do let me know. I have another URL or another blog which will tell you how to install the Oracle database. Okay, so as part of this video, in our MySQL database connectivity program, we used something called PyMySQL library to communicate to the MySQL database. Here we are going to use cx underscore oracle. So this is the library which we are going to use it. So this is specifically for communicating to the Oracle database, and cx underscore oracle, it's in a module. Okay, so what we are going to do is we are going to download the client, because if you want to run Oracle a database connectivity to Python, you need to have the um, Oracle client deployed in your machine, and it's just a zip package you need to download from the internet, or else after this video I will add that the zip folder into the resources folder. You can download it from there, but let me tell you how to download the data, the Oracle client. So what you can do is go to your browser and type Oracle install client for Windows. So it will take you to the Oracle official website, and here you can choose any kind of package. Okay, so see, you have a zip folder. You can download this client zip file and extract it. Okay, I already downloaded this particular package. So what I did is I have it in my E drive. See, in my E drive I have a folder called Python Oracle Insta Client, and this is a zip folder which I downloaded, and this is the extractor package. So we need to provide this path into system environmental variable. Okay, or else it doesn't know where the client is deployed. Okay, so what you need is just copy this path and go to your system settings and advanced system settings and environment variable, and add that into your path. See, I already added here. See, E Python Oracle Insta client folder and instant client underscore 12 underscore 1. There is a folder. Okay, click OK. So I have the Insta client set up in my system. So let's start. Okay. So I do know my Oracle database information and my Python libraries, which is nothing but cx underscore Oracle and the database details, and cx Oracle is a module. Okay. So CX model that enables access to the Oracle database and conforms to the Python database API specification. Okay, and here also you need to use the cursor. Okay, cursor to be in a specific way. If you want to mention what is cursor, cursor is an iterator. It will iterate through all the result set, all subsequent items. Okay. Okay, let me open the database. I already opened SQL Developer, and this is my database. Go to properties, and my connection name is guide me. As I said in the last video, here my username is guide me and password. It's user defined. You can give it whatever you want. And this information we need to provide in the Python script. Okay, so the database is already connected. We need to create a table called persons. Okay, let's see whether the table is existing. Select star from persons. Okay, we already have a database called persons. If you, or else what I can do is you can drop and you can recreate it. Anyway, I will share the database script, and this is the script to create the person table. Okay, I will share those into the resource section. Okay, so I know my table name person because this is the table which you are going to communicate through our Python script and the database also. Okay, as a first step, what we are going to do is the first thing is getting the connection. Okay, let's go to the script. So this is a new module, so which we are going to work with Oracle. So we need to import the appropriate module. As I said earlier, it's cx underscore Oracle. And the first thing first, connections. I need to write a function to get the connections. Get connection. So here it is similar to our previous MySQL database connection. You need to create a variable. Instead of py MySQL, we are going to use cx module. Cx Oracle dot connect, and there here you need to provide all the details about the database. So my database username is guide me, and password also guide me, at it's installed and deployed in localhost, and my port number, default port number is 1521 for the Oracle databases, and XE connection. Okay, this is my connection, and I need to return the connection. Done. Okay, this is how we need to get the connection to the database. Okay, so in the next video what we are going to do is we are going to do the CRUD operation. Select the data, insert the data, update the data. We'll go in a sequence. Okay, let's do that in the next video. We'll see each other in the next video. Hello everyone, welcome back. So the first thing, we are trying to retrieve the information from the specific table. We all know what is the table which you are going to work with, which is nothing but select star from persons. Let's see whether is there any data available here. There is no data available here at all. So before we are moving to the script, let's insert some sample data. So let me insert some records here. So I'm going to post 9101, last name Masai, and first name is Arun, and address is First Avenue, and city is Chennai, and commit the data. Okay, it's done. Let's do select star from persons. So now we have one recorder existing. So when we do the script and when we execute the script, we need to retrieve the information. Okay. So again, I'm going to write another method which will retrieve the data. When fetch data. The first thing, I need to retrieve the connection. So I need to call the get connections method here. So I have the connection. So once you got the connection, you need to have a cursor. Okay, cursor. So you need to use the connection to get the cursor, to create the cursor. Done. So now we have the connection and the cursor, which important things to communicate to the tables. So what you're going, then we need to have the SQL statement which we are going to execute. So I'm going to have another variable called SQL underscore fetch underscore data, and I'm going to have some SQL queries here. Select star from persons. Okay, so now we need to use the SQL statement in the cursor to execute it. Okay, I'm going to use a cursor dot execute, and my query SQL fetch data. So as I said in the previous chapter, whenever you're doing database operation, make sure you'll commit the connection and close the cursor properly. Okay, so now I executed the query. Now I need to fetch the data one by one. Okay, so let's create a for loop. Result in my cursor, and print cursor, sorry, result. And as I already said, connection dot commit and close the cursor properly. Okay, this is all we need. We have a connection and we have a cursor, and we have the SQL statement which needs to be executed, and we executed here, and we fetch all the data through the cursor, and we are looping it and printing it everything, and then committing the transaction and closing the cursor. Okay, let's run this. Right click and run Python file in terminal. Okay, that is nothing. Why the empty result? Let's see that. So what is the problem here? Okay, my bad. So we created a method and we didn't call it. So I'm going to call the fetch data method here. Fetch data. So I'm going to execute the script. So what will happen when we execute the script? The fetch data method will be called and these things will be executed. Just right click and go run Python file terminal. See, 101 and all the information. Okay, so this is how you need to retrieve the data from a table. And if you need any specific data, for example, I needed to take the only the name, so you can provide the index. So my index is 2 for the first name, and save it and run it. See, you got the data here. Okay, so this is how we need to communicate to the Oracle database and fetch the information from the table. Okay, let's stop this video here, because in the next video we are doing the entire CRUD operation, including the fetch. We are going to do the insert operation and update and delete operations. Okay, we'll see each other in the next video. Thank you. Hello everyone, welcome back. So now we are going to do the CRUD operations. So I'm going to come and delete this one because we have a method to fetch the information. So now we need to write a method to insert the data to the table. Okay, so insert data, create a method, and if you want to pass a parameter through runtime, you can make a different kind of method signature. You can pass the parameters here and you can use it in the inside the query. Okay, for now I'm going to hardcode the data anyway. So the first thing, always getting the connection and getting the cursor. That is done. So next thing, we need to have the SQL statement. Okay, I'm going to have a variable called p1 which will insert the person one. So we need to know the syntax to insert a record into a table. So the syntax is simple: insert into table name, which is nothing but persons, in values. If you don't want to specify any table, I mean any column names, you can directly use values and you can provide all the values for the fields. So I'm going to use 1 or 2, and I'm going to use, okay, person ID, first name, last name. Okay, that's enough. Okay, so what is the table structure? Last name and first name. Okay, so what is the last name? I'm going to use my last name is Raj, and first name is Nancy, and it's from Second Main Street, Chennai. Okay, let's insert a single person information. Or okay, why can't we have multiple? Okay, let's have another person called P2 and insert into person ID 3 and Paul. First name is Carlson. Bridgetown, and from London. Okay, now I have a two-person information needs to be stored into the table. I have the connection ready, I have the cursor ready, and do have the SQL statements ready. So I need to execute the script. So I'm going to use the cursor to execute. So I'm going to insert P1 first, and I'm going to do the same thing for the person P2 as well. So maybe for fetch data you don't need to put the you don't need to put the commit and the close, but when you're doing DML process like manipulating the data or playing with the data, you need to provide the commit and close properly. Okay, so let me commit the connection and close the cursor and save it. So now just make sure everything's in place. Connection is there, cursor is there, and I do have the SQL statements here, and I executed both of them. So connection committed and the cursor closed properly, and maybe we can have a message here: person details added. So now what else? We need to call the method. Let's call it insert data. Save it. Now right click and run Python file in terminal. Person it is added. Okay, fine. Looks like it's worked fine. But we need to check the table to make sure we got the data inserted properly. Two things. Either you can go to the MySQL developer and verify data, or else we already have a method to view the data. You can call the fetch data method. That will retrieve the data, right? Anyway, save it and right click and run. See, we got all the names because in our fetch data we printed the name. So let's remove this and run it again. Right click and Python file in terminal. See, we got all the employee information. That is pretty cool, right? Okay, so we know how to fetch the data and we know how to insert the data. In case I want to update some of the records, for example, I want to update the Nancy's location or city. So how are you going to do that? So we are going to write another method to update the employee information. Okay, fine. Update data. So as we all know, the first thing's connection and the cursor, and then SQL for update. So what we are trying to do, so we are trying to update Nancy's location from Chennai to Hyderabad. Let's try that. So the person ID is 102. So update table name, set city, right? City equal Hyderabad. Where and the person ID 102. That's all. Now using the cursor we are going to execute the SQL statement. SQL update and commit and the close. Make sure you close the connection, commit the connection and close the cursor. Then and just put a message like saying person details updated. Now right click and run the script. So okay, again we didn't call the method, just call it update data and right click and run in. So here the Python is updated. So again we are not going to the SQL developer and verify data, we have the method to verify that. So call the fetch data here. Okay, let me clear the console so it will be easy to see. So now I have a fetch data method called. Let me execute that. Run Python file in terminal. Okay, something wrong again. See, Arul Raj, Nancy, the location has been updated to Hyderabad. So this is how we need to update the data. So what else is pending? So we did the select and we did the insert and we did the update. Obviously next one is the delete. Okay, let's create a method for deleting a person. Delete record or simply delete data. So connection and the cursor and SQL to delete. So I'm going to delete the employee 102 or 103. So delete from persons where person ID equal to 103. Okay, so now execute the query with the help of cursor SQL delete connection dot commit and cursor dot close. And just for our sake, I'm going to add a print here saying person removed. Save it and let's call the method delete data. Let's see what happened now. I'm going to run this. Run person removed. Again, no issues. Let's call the fetch data to see whether the 103 employee person has been removed. Just right click and run it again. Wow, this is pretty cool. My 103 is deleted. 102 is updated with the help of updated data. So this is how we need to work with the Oracle database. And one of the important thing is you need to know the syntax, how you need to write a query in SQL and how you need to write a query in MySQL. Both are pretty much similar with simple difference. Okay, so what we done so far, we have a method to get the connection, and we have a method to fetch the data, and we have method to insert the data, and we do have a method to update the data and delete. So here you can call what are the method you want. So you can have the exercise if you want, because if you see every method, I mean all the methods here, there is no parameters because all the information has been hard coded here. Which data needs to be updated and what needs to be updated and which record needs to be deleted, everything has been hard coded. So what you can do is you can pass the parameter here. So you can say send the detail while calling the method. Okay, you can pass the arguments to the method and add those arguments into your query. So that will be dynamical. That is a dynamic code. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed the chapter, and please make sure you know the difference between the MySQL and the SQL, because each of them using a different library, and the syntax is pretty much similar or almost similar, but only retrieving the or establishing a connection to the database is different. Okay, just try it out and do let me know if you get stuck somewhere, and we'll see each other in the next video. Thank you.
I'm an icon, man. And my girl about a 10. I should fuck her in the Benz.